Fostering connection through vulnerability, the People Pleaser podcast validates struggles, celebrates growth, and inspires positive change. Together, let's embrace authenticity, challenge patterns, and evolve with compassion. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the People Pleaser podcast. It's Corie, and I'm back for another one. Here I am. It does feel kind of strange not having more day-to-day interaction on Instagram. I'm still on a bit of a pause, but it's also kind of fun to record and know that, like, you don't know what I've been up to. So it's like all right here, all right now. And the truth is, I've been in it. I've been going through it. Everything that I've kind of been experiencing as of lately has been positive, but I'm learning and possibly unlearning. And it has a lot to do with people pleasing. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about. I have quit my job at the breakfast restaurant. So I've been keeping you all up to speed on that. And this week is actually my first full week at my new job. So up until last week, I was doing both jobs. And as of this week, I am Monday to Friday at one job. And that has done wonders for my mind to be back to just a simpler schedule, a simpler structure. And I want to share some experiences I've had, and I've had enough of these experiences now to begin to see a bit of a pattern in my behavior. And I don't really know what to call it quite yet, but the theme is taking on more than I can chew, and essentially overcommitting and working well beyond my capacity, and then ultimately like that leads to burnout. So before I moved, I was living in Victoria. I was working a full-time job, and I had an evening job, and that schedule was really good. And I had, over the years, trimmed down all my various side hustles, all my part-time jobs. Like, I spent many years really building a patchwork quilt of jobs and commitments and volunteering and all kinds of different things. And what I've learned about myself is that I've allowed my ego and I've allowed my scarcity mindset to really propel me into these situations where all of a sudden I've taken on way more than I can comfortably maintain, and I burn out. And so I want to unpack that a little bit, and I'm going to use 3 recent experiences. So like I was saying, before I moved, I had a really good system. And now that I'm in Port Townsend and I am trying to really prioritize school, and I've made the conscious decision to not work in my field, which my field is working with children and youth in a mental health capacity. I've very proactively decided that I want to work in a more social setting. I want to meet people. I am in a master's full time, so I just want a little bit of a break from the heavy duty type work. And that means that I can put all that energy into my school, and I can focus on building my community and just kind of having fun at a job. And So I got here and I immediately got the job at the restaurant, and it was only 3 days a week. And that felt very manageable. That felt like a good balance because my school is about 25 hours per week. So that I really liked. But there was a part of me that didn't think that was enough and I've never really worked part-time before. Even when I was in my undergrad, I was working almost close to full-time, and I just have this tendency to like really want to fill up my schedule, even though I have spent years like really trying to minimize the complexity of my schedule. I found with this move and working part-time, I was inclined to like load myself back up. So next thing you know, I am considering this part-time position with a group home. And it would have been an on-call position, but I went into this interview because I had been recommended by a friend. So again, I wasn't really working hard to pursue this. It kind of came to me, and I wanted to see it through. I appreciated the gesture of my friend putting in a good word, putting in a recommendation. I appreciated the manager making time for me, interviewing me, and I actually felt that she would be a really great person for me to know in this community when I decided to kind of launch back into my career. So I went in kind of with those were my guiding principles, like having my friend in mind and kind of having this like, oh, she would be a good contact. This is a good opportunity for sometime down the road. Next thing you know, she's offering me all these training shifts, and she's asking basically offering me the job. And even though it was on call, the more I thought about it, the more I realized I pretty much never am going to want to say yes. And it has nothing to do with the job. It has everything to do with my mental load, my capacity, how much free time I have. I want to spend time with my husband. School is taking me it's taking up a lot of my energy. It's taking up a lot of my time. I have goals around just taking care of myself and getting exercise. I want to walk my dog. So there was all these things that I was like, I want this job. My ego wants this job, but I don't actually want to work this job. Like when I really think about picking up shifts on an on-call basis, I don't really want to. And so I had initially kind of gone down the road of pursuing these training shifts. I hadn't scheduled anything, but that was kind of like where we were at. It was like, okay, it's time to let her know my availability. And I pulled the plug. And I felt gross a little bit. Like I felt a little bit guilty just because I felt like I had strung her along. But I also felt like I'd be doing her and these youth a disservice by saying yes and then pretty much saying no to every shift that were to come my way. So I had to just be really real and let her know, like, I don't think I have the capacity right now, and I don't want to give any kind of false hope or the wrong idea. So she wished me well. Message was well received, and that was that. Then, the family I worked for in Victoria, there was like a mutual friend of a family who actually lives here. So they're all doctors and they all kind of work together, but there is a family here that through a mutual friend knows the family I worked for in Victoria. And the family I worked for in Victoria had been like singing my praises, had basically said like, we had Corie work for our family. It was amazing, super helpful. and they gave a recommendation with my consent to this local family here in Port Townsend. And so last week I went and I met the family, and I told them, like, yeah, I'm now working 5 days a week at this cafe, and I am in school 25 hours a week. But yeah, I'm super curious to learn, like, what types of opportunities you might have for me. And we went down the road of me saying, like, that I wanted to work for them. And they were like, okay, so, like, what's your availability? And I'm like, well, I don't really have any, but I still really want this job. And again, I was in this position where I'd been highly recommended. That felt great. I was being sought after. Again, my ego is like, hell yeah, like, this feels great. You want to be the answer to this family's problems. You want to make the Victoria family look good, and, they can, be rest assured that their recommendation was, like, well received and took flight. And so I'm meeting with this family, and they're saying, okay, so you don't really have any day-to-day availability, like on a regular daily type basis. However, we have one full weekend a month where we need basically, like, Saturday and Sunday, 8 hours of care for their 3 kids. And I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I could do one weekend a month where I'm working an additional 16 hours to my 25 hours of school and my 40 hours of work. And so we left off with them saying that they were going to send me the weekends they need coverage for. So in comes the text, and it's a weekend in November and a weekend in December, and they're asking me if I am available. And the moment I looked at that text, the moment I looked at those dates, the moment I really sat in the idea of working a full weekend after working a full work week and my school, and, like, having a husband somewhere in there and a dog and, like, taking care of myself, again, I was in this position where I was like, oh my God, I don't want to work any of these shifts. Like, I want to say yes, but I want to say no. And so I had sat on that text for a couple days, and I let her know that I would get back to her. And the more I sat with it, the more I just, like, really had to come to terms with the fact that I don't want to take any more on, and that I am already at my capacity. Actually, I'm even beyond my capacity, because my new job is 5 days a week. And I'll just put that there for a moment and come back to it. But I ultimately had to tell this family, I am so sorry, but I'm having second thoughts, and I don't think this is going to work. I don't think this is the right fit for me. And I need to stop doing this. I need to stop saying yes. And I have really lived a lot of years being that yes man, like, wanting to say yes to all these opportunities, really liking the idea of all these opportunities. And I've been so fortunate that I have these opportunities coming my way. And I guess I just, like, I'm trying to show my gratitude. I am trying to show them that, yes, I would love to do this. However, I'm having a hard time in the moment, like, as these situations present themselves, having a boundary and being able to speak my needs in real time. Because my pattern now is to say yes in real time, and then a few days later say no. And that's okay. Like, there hasn't been any harm done. I haven't gotten to the place where I'm, like, actually starting the job and then bailing. And especially because, like, with these two examples, they were with families, with children on the other side, and with the group home, it's like vulnerable youth on the other side. I don't want to be flaky. I don't want to have anybody spend time training me to then just bail. And I mean, that's going to happen in life, and that's okay. But in these moments, I just wish that I could close the gap a little bit more and have a quicker response time. And I think if I'm really thinking about it, I want to say yes in person. And that's what these situations have been. Like, they're face-to-face interactions where I am saying yes to the opportunity. But then when I'm saying no, I've texted both of the no's. And I think that has a lot to do with me being really uncomfortable saying no and setting a boundary face to face to somebody. And I guess, like, there are all kinds of examples I know I have where I've been able to set a boundary in real time. I think, however, when it comes to these employment opportunities, these financial opportunities, these opportunities where I'm kind of like trying to prove my worth and prove my expertise, prove my professionalism, I've created this narrative that if I say no, I will be seen as unprofessional, be seen as unreliable, be thought that, oh, maybe this recommendation was ill-informed. Like, maybe Corie isn't as great as we've heard. So again, these are all very ego-driven patterns and behaviors. And the reality that I just have to fully accept is that I have enough on my plate, and I'm okay with that. And I want to get more comfortable saying no to opportunities and not worry that if I say no, that I'm never going to have an opportunity like that again. And that's where scarcity does play in. I definitely have fallen into scarcity mindset when it comes to money. So just always worrying that I don't have enough money or won't have enough money. And that has led me to saying yes to things because of the money. And the reality is that the money has never actually been the reason I stay. Like, it helps for sure, but even, in some of my most well-paid jobs, that's not usually enough. Like, there has to be something more than just money to actually keep me happy. The other area of scarcity is opportunity. And I think for me, like, I've built a career for myself. In Victoria, I certainly had built a little bit of a name for myself in the field. I care quite deeply how I'm perceived professionally, and that's something that means a lot to me. So when opportunities come my way, I am almost like unconsciously trying to like live up to this standard that I am putting on myself. Like, I'm the best, I'm the greatest. And it's like, Corie, no, you're not. Like, sure, you might be great, but like, you can be great and have boundaries. You can be great and let somebody else have that opportunity. You can be great and work at a cafe and focus on your master's. So it's been interesting to really begin to notice, like, oh, this is a pattern. And it's new because I guess I haven't really been in this type of situation for a while. I was in a really steady job for 2 years, and before that I was in a steady job. So this is new territory, and I am going to give myself grace that I'm kind of back in this little bit of a patchwork quilt situation. I think here in Port Townsend, it's very common for people to have multiple jobs. I think too, like, because I'm not working in my field, there is still a pull to like be connected to it somehow. And I'm just really trying to lean into working at this new cafe. I was going to say that I am working 5 days a week now, and I was really comfortable with 3 days a week, but this opportunity came, and I will just say there's a similar theme going on where I was offered this job. It kind of, again, fell on my lap, and it was presented to me as a bit of a lead position, there was a bit of a responsibility associated with it, and my boss sought me out. And that, again, felt really good. And he was saying that, ideally it would be a 5-day-a-week position. He also said, if you need to go down to 4 or if you need to go down to 3 days, like, let's have that conversation. There's no worries. But I, being the people pleaser that I am, I'm like, nope, I can do 5, no problem. And I still stand by that. Like, I want to try 5, and it is kind of nice to know that if I need an out, there is an out. But this week and last week, it has been a lot. Like with school, with still like carving out that intentional time with my husband, carving out that intentional time for the podcast, for getting some exercise, for just like the downtime. Working 5 days a week and being in school is a lot. So that is just something that I want to pay attention to and just be mindful that I do have this tendency to take on more. And if I get to a place where I'm feeling burnt out and tired, I need to really begin to examine, like, are you holding on to the 5 days for the right reasons? And are you able to humor the idea of going down to 3 or 4 days? And I'm not there yet. I'm not ready. I have been really enjoying it. Now that I know that I'm like in this steady, consistent 5-day-a-week pattern with school, I am trying to carve out just like new routine and new structure. But I just like really need to prioritize boundaries. I need to prioritize just my own well-being and really being honest about my capacity and like not only just like how much I can take on, but what I'm taking on and why. Why am I taking that on? And I've realized too that like there is a financial layer to things, but now that I'm not like solely responsible for myself, like my husband and I, we now share our expenses. There's a different financial landscape that I'm still figuring out, but to kind of give myself a little bit of a break, like, okay, you're not on your own anymore. You have the support of a husband. You have a teammate. You don't need to take on like all these extra jobs because you're okay. Financially, you're okay. And that's new. That's new for me. And all of this is new. So I would say that given the amount of newness, I am figuring it out. My turnaround time on these boundaries isn't instant, but I am still figuring it out, and I am still really trying to lean into honesty. And with these 2 examples, I've been really honest. I've apologized for taking up the time that I have, but just been like, I'm just realizing that I've already bitten off all that I can chew, and I would be doing a disservice to both me and you if I were to say yes to this. It's interesting how sometimes we have to be reminded, even if it's ourselves, that we are reminding ourselves to have boundaries. And it's good to just have these moments of like getting out of autopilot and just being intentional, slowing down, and making decisions that are in your best interest. Once again, this is Corie with the People Pleaser Podcast. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. And if you liked what you heard, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can find daily content from me on both Instagram and TikTok. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you on the next episode.